From Stephen King
Virtual reality holds a key to the evolution of the human mind.
comes another shock to the system.
There's no telling how far I can take Joe.
He'll get under your skin,
What are you hiding?
into your system.
What is it?
And tear you apart.
I am God here.
From Stephen King comes the most terrifying film of the year, The Lawnmower Man.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cinema Arcade. This is the podcast about movies, video games, and the sparks that fly when we enter said video games and become gods of those domains. My name is Steve Guntley, the Cyber God, and this is the episode about The Lawnmower Man, one of the absolute strangest little oddities from the 90s, and I think a contender for the least faithful adaptation of a Stephen King story of all time. We will get into it, but who is joining me here today in cyberspace?
In cyberspace, I'm the weird gloves that you were supposed to wear when in fact in all VR you never wear gloves.
You're right. I've never worn a glove. I've never worn like a haptic sensor glove, but maybe those are out there.
They are.
But J-Ban is your name.
Oh
I
yeah,
believe.
I always forget to say my name.
Or actually, no, according to this game, your name is now Z-Bano.
Zibano.
That's your hacker name now.
Zed-Bano.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Zed-Bano. Yeah, Zed-Bano's better. Who else is here with us?
I am just a man that likes to eat grass.
Oh, finally. Good to have you on the show. We've been hearing about you. And how's Pan, your boss?
A bit of a dick sometimes, a bit of a dick,
Yeah.
but sometimes not a dick. Just a random time.
Well, I love what he's done with your
I
teeth.
hear he's well hung.
So we
Cannot. There's an NDA involved, so I can't.
HR intervenes before you find that
The
out.
NDA only is involving that.
That's actually true. In ancient Greece, one of the few statues that would be well endowed, because it was not part of the Greek ideal to have a large penis, would be Pan statues.
I absolutely love that that's the fact that we're opening this episode on The Lawnmower Man with. I think this is going to be a gas leak kind of episode. It's a little later for us. This movie's deeply insane, and it's going to be a lot of fun to dissect it. Before we begin, what's everybody's experience with this movie? Justin, I'm going to assume you've seen this 800 times, have it tattooed on you somewhere.
I honestly had never even considered the fact that Pierce Brosnan did anything before James Bond.
He sure did. He was Remington Steele and Dr. Lawrence Angelo.
Yep, sure.
Yeah. This is not one that you had on your radar. J-Ben, had you seen this before?
I had seen this when I was a small child and thought this was the weirdest movie I'd ever fucking seen.
Has that opinion changed?
No, the opinion has not changed.
This movie, I remember, my family was a big Entertainment Tonight family. We would watch Entertainment Tonight every night, and so I would learn about all these upcoming
Is that a
movies.
channel?
No, Entertainment Tonight was
a TV show.
It was like a news show, but for movies and TV.
It was at 6:30 in the evening.
Yeah, Mary Hart and John Tesh, and they would come out and
channel,
yeah.
but this is still a thing.
Is it still on? I thought it was canceled. It might be gone or
I think
not.
it's I think it's on
I think
online.
Ryan Seacrest probably hosts it now. I'm not sure who does it. But either way, I remember seeing a featurette on the making of this movie, and they were really touting it as oh, these are special effects that are going to blow your mind. We created entire worlds using a computer, and you can barely tell. Look how realistic this looks. You can barely tell. It was this real flashpoint moment for CGI graphics. And then that was not how its legacy panned out. But I think panned out. Yeah, you're gonna understand that pun in a second. Let's get into this. The Lawnmower Man was released May 6, 1992. It's directed by Brett Leonard. It's written by Leonard and Gimel Everett. It stars Jeff Fahey, Pierce Brosnan, Jenny Wright, Jeffrey Lewis, Mark Bringleston, Austin O'Brien, Jeremy Slate, Troy Evans, Colleen Coffey, Rosalie Mayo, and Dean Norris. That's right, Hank himself. Stephen King's The Lawnmower Man. This is a very short story that he first published in 1975 in Cavalier magazine. It was later included in his first ever compilation of short stories, which is called Night Shift. It was released in 1978. Now, we all read this story because this is a 5-page long story. You can read it in a sitting. It's a short, nasty little bit of business about a guy who hires a local service to come and mow his lawn. And the guy that shows up to mow his lawn can control that lawnmower with his mind. And oh yeah, he likes to get totally naked and crawl behind the lawnmower and eat the grass clippings, even if it runs over a small animal. It's gross.
That's
it's
just
short.
protein.
It's evocative. It ends with our hero chopped up in a bird bath, and that's kind of it.
You forget it's also, it's not just that he does that. The only reason why they kill the guy in the end is because he calls the police.
Yeah, they imply
Snitches.
the guy says he works for Pan, so like he's a
Snitches
satyr.
get hit by a lawnmower, partially eaten, presumably,
and
then put in a bird bath.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a memorable story. I remember reading this story when I was like quite young, and it really made an impression on me. And like reading it back just before recording this episode, I was kind of amazed at how well I remembered it. Like specific lines of dialogue I remembered from this. So it makes an impression, but it hardly lends itself to a feature film adaptation. Still, the rights to Night Shift were originally sold. They were going to be an anthology TV series, like a Twilight Zone style series, where each story was going to be the basis for its own episode, which I'm on board with. I think that's a cool approach. But that project lost funding, and over time the stories were kind of sold off piecemeal. So producer Dino De Laurentiis, who's like a legendary Italian like B-movie producer, who also did some like real movies too, he purchased 3 of these stories, Trucks, The Mangler, and The Lawnmower Man. And he had an intent on releasing those as an anthology-style movie similar to Cat's Eye. Do you ever see Cat's Eye?
Yeah.
Early Stephen King, changing 3 of his short stories into like 3 little short films. But that project fell through too, and so all of these stories were sold off and developed as their own movies. Trucks was actually developed by Stephen King himself. He would make his directorial debut, and to date his only directorial film, Maximum Overdrive, which is a nuts movie. It's so stupid and so fun. Emilio Estevez versus a bunch of trucks. The main villain of Truck has a large Spider-Man Green Goblin face on the front of it. Lisa Simpson's in there. That movie's absolutely insane. Stephen King, I believe, gets murdered by an ATM machine in that one.
Yeah.
You just mean ATM.
Stephen King claims that he was so whacked out of his mind on coke that he fully does not remember directing this movie. I think he's trying to create some plausible deniability because the movie stinks.
I also think he also said that about Cujo, and he was very disappointed that he didn't remember writing Cujo because it's a good book. Yeah,
Cujo's good. Yeah, with the Maximum Overdrive, I think he's trying to distance himself.
The question is whether or not cocaine was in the source material, and I think it was.
I wouldn't doubt it. I would not doubt it at all. The other stories, The Mangler, that was actually given a movie adaptation in the 90s. Have you ever seen that one? Mm-mm. It's about a killer laundry machine starring Robert Englund from Nightmare on Elm Street. It is a very weird movie directed by Tobe
I love so
Hooper.
much of Stephen King's career is adorable child stories and aren't machines creepy.
Kinda, yeah. There's a joke on Family Guy from forever ago where okay, Steven, what's your next pitch? And he's looking around the room and he's just like, a lamp monster. They're like, all right, $2 million. When can I have it? Yeah, that's, he had a phase like that. But the Lawnmower Man was sold to a distributor called Allied Vision, but they were still struggling to figure out how to turn this story into a movie. Meanwhile,
maybe they should have just stopped there.
Maybe they should have. But meanwhile, there's a director, a young guy named Brett Leonard, working out of Ohio, and he's shopping around a script that he co-wrote with his wife, Gamel Everett, for a sci-fi movie called Cyber God. Now, Cyber God, this is the time is based on a lot of technology stuff that Leonard was reading up on. Now, in the late 80s, early 90s, the big, exciting technology, the thing that was going to usher in the next technological era was virtual reality, or VR. Ooh. And it was still this very hypothetical thing, but I think people were really getting out over their skis about what was possible with VR. And it was really having a moment. This is 1992. By 1993, we're going to get Nintendo's console, the Virtual Boy, which was a VR-style situation, and it is, to date, Nintendo's biggest failure of all time.
I don't think I've ever seen one.
Oh, I had one.
I think it's really interesting because we can talk about virtual reality and we could talk about the current AI bubble.
Yeah.
And I feel they're very similar.
They
because
are.
They're being shoved down our throats and people are just like, I'm not that into it.
But VR was more... It was and is more of an opt-in because you need to like want to buy that equipment, like, and you need to want to sign up for these services. Like, obviously, like Meta Quest and stuff like that are very popular now. You know, so like VR has hit some kind of like mainstream penetration, but I don't think it's ever really become this like futuristic like panacea like we always thought it was going to be. It was going to be this
like
thing
a
that's
Ready
gonna
Player
solve
One type of
everything.
thing.
Exactly, and it certainly has never gotten to the point. And correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody knows anything elsewise, but I don't think it's gotten to that point where people get so involved in their virtual worlds that they like don't come up for air. I mean,
that's
maybe
what
that's not
AI.
true.
That's what they're doing with AI and AI psychosis.
Well, AI is just being shoved down our throats whether we want it or not.
Clearly, they just needed other video games because,
Yeah, they
like,
did.
I've seen people do that with non-VR stuff, but I've never heard of a VR experience that was engaging enough for that.
It took a long time. It took until honestly, it's been like the last 10 years that like VR has become sort of a.
And it makes people nauseous as fuck.
It still does. It still does.
There's also this like weirdness where like you don't hear about VR as much as you used to. It's still there. It's still very much so a thing, but at the same time, like it's kind of shifted into a niche from where it was trying to be like mainstream technology.
Right. You know, for this big, like, exciting technology, I have a MetaQuest helmet over there that, honestly, it's just gathering dust. Like, I haven't played
When's the last time
it in
it
a
was
while.
used? Did
Creed.
we use
It's
been
it?
a few months.
Was it Creed?
Creed.
That
Have
was
you used it since then?
I think I've played it since then,
Okay.
but not much, honestly.
Yeah.
And there's one or two games that we can cover on, like, VR from, like,
And
there's
it's
an
like
Iron Man game and stuff.
The
But
early 2010s, everybody was talking about like augmented reality and then virtual reality
Right.
as you shifted into the middle of the 10s. And then like now we don't care as much.
I think there are natural limitations to the technology. And like you said, like, there is a physical reaction that you have when using this technology that makes it kind of different than AI.
Yeah, because part of it is you need something to drive the visuals of it, and that either needs to be attached to you and your body, or you need to be attached to a cable, to a wall, or to a computer somewhere.
Yeah.
And so inherently there's just notable limitations because you have to drive a display for each eye, and if you don't do that right, people will get sick.
Yeah. Well, but Brett Leonard, when he was writing the script, he attended a speech by this guy named Jaron Lanier, who is the founder of VPL Laboratories. They were the ones that kind of innovated the new, like, our current iteration of virtual reality. Like, what we think of as virtual reality kind of comes out of VPL. He went to this presentation. He was really blown away by the
What year did he
possibilities
go to
of
the
it.
presentation?
Early 90s, probably like 1980s.
Because it
Really
looks like the
interesting.
company was bankrupt in 98.
A couple of years ago, I was volunteering at South by Southwest, and I went to a couple of VR things, and they were like really interesting about doing VR documentaries.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I feel like VR documentaries is such a better way to go than VR video games, because it's just like it makes you feel like you're in the scene, and so that's kind of fun. But it also, it also is very just what's the word? Frivolous, you know.
Well, and I've really enjoyed like a handful of VR video games, but for the most part, they're fairly limited in their scope. Like, most of the VR games I had would like be beatable within like an hour or two. There are a
Yeah.
few exceptions, but like most of them were pretty short and to the point.
You don't have like these massive flagship like AAA games.
No, not really. Like,
Yeah.
there's the one I played Half-Life Alyx, which I
I
think
think
is
that might be the biggest.
That's the biggest-
like
that's-
maybe the biggest budget.
and that's still probably my favorite experience of the VR game ever. That's an incredible use of it. There's a really good Resident Evil 4 port in VR. And then there's just like a lot of puzzle games, a lot of like Beat Saber's a lot of fun, Super Hot's a lot of fun, but all of these are pretty limited in what you can do, and I don't feel compelled to kind of like go to the trouble of setup.
Do you know who now owns the assets of that company?
No.
Oracle.
Oh yeah, makes sense.
Because they went bankrupt and everything was sold off to Sun Microsystems, and then Sun was bought by Oracle.
There you go. Fish eating fish.
Yep.
But either way, Brett Leonard, he took this idea from this presentation he had, and he blended a healthy amount of flowers for Algernon. I don't know if y'all have read that short story as well, but
I think I have.
Yeah, the story of a young man named Charlie who is simple-minded, and then he gets treated with this experimental drug that makes him a genius, but it also makes him unhappy and unwell. You know, it's this
So
big
you're saying
parable.
is they listed this as an adaptation of the wrong story.
It almost is. Allied Vision ended up buying the script for Cyber God, and they decided to kill two birds with one stone. They're going to take the completed Cyber God script, they're going to slap the Lawnmower Man and Stephen King branding on it, make a few minor rewrites, and then they're off and running. So this newly Frankenstein project was sold to New Line in 1990, and Brett Leonard was hired on as the director. The movie carried a modest $10 million budget, but New Line saw this as an opportunity to showcase some groundbreaking new visuals. Now, CGI is at a real inflection point, and I think if this movie's kind of remembered at all, it's remembered as sort of this last little primitive gasp of CGI before Jurassic Park comes out and just kind of changes the game completely, right? Like, this is 1992. Within a year, Jurassic Park is going to be out. And it makes this movie look like 8 million years old. Like, it makes this movie look so primitive. But at the time, this was the most extensive use of CGI we'd seen in a movie thus far, like maybe outside of Tron. But Tron used a lot of like practical tricks to make things look CGI when they were actually physical sets. So it's like a little bit of a split. Like, we saw a very little bit of it when we were talking about Willow last week. Like, there's very limited CGI in that. That's like, I think they knew their limits on that. Like, you see a tiny little CGI Mad Mardigan like fighting the dragon. Like, and if you look real close, it looks a little, pixelated, but it's not designed for you to look at it super closely. They were using it sparingly. This was going to be a lot of CGI, and this was also going to be some of the first motion capture work ever done, particularly for the scene, the very ridiculous scene where the priest gets burned alive and you see a kind of figure of a fireman like dancing around. That was actually early motion capture. It really does not look like it, but it was. Now, the title character here was played by Jeff Fahey, who is an up-and-coming B-movie actor. Didn't really have that many credits at this point. Weirdly, I think he was kind of best known because he starred in two movies in 1988. One is called Impulse, and one is called White Hunter, Black Heart. One was directed by Sandra Locke. The other was directed by Clint Eastwood. Those two were in the middle of a very high-profile divorce, and so they'd arranged to have them released at the same time so that her movie would get blown out of the water, and he got some publicity because he was in both movies. But either way, he was just kind of like, up and coming, and he caught a little attention off of it. He's got incredible like icy blue eyes. He's got these really
Incredible
striking eyes. He's a very handsome, kind of rugged looking guy. I think these days most people, if you know Jeff Fahey, it's because you're a Lost fan. He played the pilot Frank Lapidus for like the last 4 seasons of Lost. Kind of became a fan favorite because he was like the least bullshit character.
Yeah.
He's kind of like, he doesn't get any flashback episodes. He's not part of like some grand destiny. He's literally just like, look, I fly a plane. If you guys want to get off this weird island, I will fly you off this island. So I think fans kind of appreciated how refreshing he was. No, he's just one of those guys who's been working forever. But the second lead, of course, is Pierce Brosnan in a pre-GoldenEye era. I think this is the last movie he did before getting officially cast as Bond. Mrs. Doubtfire would come out after this, but then, 1995, he'd be in GoldenEye, and that's off to the races from then. At this point, he's kind of known as a TV actor because he'd done like 5 seasons of Remington Steele.
There's a movie called Love Affair.
Love Affair? Oh, is he in Love Affair with Warren Beatty and Annette Bening? Okay, yeah, I could see that, yeah. Brosnan, I don't think he's well cast here. He's too debonair to be this like shaggy genius type,
it should definitely like this movie reminds me a lot of The Fly.
A little bit.
Like
That's
The
generous,
Fly.
but yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I'm like, this movie is not The Fly, but it's sort of going for The Fly thing, like having a handsome doctor play God, and instead of having him turn into another creature, we have this.
Let's say let's get this out of the way right now. The early part of this movie, Jeff Fahey is simple jacking it pretty hard. He is going full R word, as they say in Tropic Thunder. It's a very embarrassing performance in like the early third of this movie. Once he develops a little intelligence and gets to like play a sleazy Jeff Fahey character, that's, it works a little better, but these early scenes are pretty rough going.
They're so rough going, and then because they just show him constantly being abused.
Yep.
And it's just like, and even like his best friend, like who's also a kid, is also being abused. Like everyone's being abused. It's just like, oh my God.
It's part of the reason, like, this movie's got a very abrasive tone right off the bat, and it's part of the reason that the early test screenings went really poorly. They went so poorly, in fact, that they cut like more than a half an hour out of the movie. So the final theatrical release is still very long. It's an hour and 48 minutes, which feels really, really long. But it's also kind of incoherent. There is a director's cut that Brett Leonard would release like maybe 10 years after this on DVD. It adds that half an hour back. And that's the version I'd seen prior to this. Like, I'd only seen that extended version. And It does make a little bit more narrative sense. It gives the female character a little bit more to do, but it's still kind of a lousy movie, and making it 2.5 hours long doesn't fix the problem. Yeah,
in the movie, Pierce Brosnan's character has a wife who they have like
two discussions.
Two discussions with, and then she leaves him.
Just disappears from the movie.
One discussion is, hey, you said you were going to take me to the city. The next one is, I'm leaving you.
Yeah.
Oh, and they make out a little bit in between there, like just to break it up. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. If I was leaving Pierce Brosnan, I'd make out with him too.
You're like, one more for the road. Get over here, buddy.
Yeah. And so apparently they cut out all the scenes with her. And then also there was a plot element where Job was supposed to see the chimpanzee get killed, and then they were going to be referencing that throughout. They had to then go back through and cut out.
Yeah, it technically is a better movie, but it's also just incredibly long for a movie that's already problematically slow.
Does that inherently make it a worse movie? That's the question.
It's one of those things. Yeah, it's just having more of it doesn't necessarily fix the problems that are sort of endemic with the story. But either way, the movie that was released had all these gaping plot holes, and it just kind of didn't super make sense. The flashy special effects plus the heavy emphasis on Stephen King and all the advertising propelled this into a modest hit. It made $35 million opposite its $10 million budget. But those profits were kind of impacted because Stephen King took them to court because he felt it was incredibly misleading to be using his name to advertise this story that essentially has nothing to do with what he wrote.
Literally,
now, we summarized the short story earlier. Did you hear me mention virtual reality even one time?
No, it's really funny.
They don't even leave the yard.
No,
they do have the cop talking about how hot it is and makes people go psychosexual crazy, which I just thought I was like and they mode a person, they psychically mode, but instead of being a divine Pan inspired psychic power, it's computer science.
If you learn enough from the computer, you will get telekinesis and other psychic abilities.
Justin, you floated here.
I did.
Yeah.
I don't drive anymore.
No, yeah, you just float
especially with 35, it's quicker.
And occasionally you turn people into a bunch of little balls. If they piss you off, you're just zap. You're a bunch of
that's only when the playland is running
the
low.
Powers in this make no sense.
No sense.
I think the idea is that he's breaking them up and spreading his molecules everywhere. But either way, I'm going to put a pin in that. The Stephen King lawsuit. He sued for this for $25 million or $2.5 million, which he won. On appeal, they had to remove his name from all the advertising, but they got to keep his name in the movie. So it was kind of a compromise there. But yeah, this has been kind of considered one of the least faithful adaptations of all time because it's basically in name only. The only nods we get are the kid's abusive father is named Harold Parquet, which is the name of the main character in the short story, and he ends up chopped up in a bird bath. That's it. And that happens off screen, and we don't see the bird bath, and it's incidental to anything that happens.
And we don't see, this movie doesn't have restraint, but for some reason they decide not to show us the bloody effects of the lawnmower.
Yeah,
they show a man shoot himself in the head, but they don't show a man getting chewed up by a lawnmower.
Like, kind of a good effect, but this movie would wind up being successful enough that it does get a sequel, although you'd be forgiven for never having heard of it. Lawnmower Man 2 Beyond Cyberspace didn't have the Stephen King branding or the original director or writer or almost any member of the cast except for the kid. The kid is the only one who comes back.
You're telling me that Pierce Brosnan didn't leave filming GoldenEye to come and film this movie?
Astonishingly, he chose to stay on that dead-end Bond train and didn't jump into cyberspace. This movie, I remember distinctly, could not even settle on its title because the VHS copy was called Lawnmower Man 2 Job's War, and the theatrical release was called Beyond Cyberspace. And I think in Japan it's called something entirely different.
So wait, I'm seeing here that it had a budget of $15 million and the box office was $2.4 million?
2.4. That sequel actually cost more than this first one, and it made significantly less.
And what ended up happening to New Line Cinemas?
They got bought out by Warner Brothers. Yeah.
Oh no.
This is a side tangent, but this was a real era when I suspect that New Line had like some tax shelters going because 1997 they released Mortal Kombat Annihilation, which was almost 3 times as expensive as the first Mortal Kombat. Looks like it was filmed by a child in someone's backyard. And so I think it was some kind of like scam to like, I don't know, launder some money or something. But that's my theory. I don't have it based on anything.
They went to the Tommy Wiseau School of Filmmaking.
They fully did. But yeah, that's kind of been the ultimate legacy of the Lawnmower Man. Weirdly, I think its most enduring pop culture reference is in a late episode of Community. Where the dean gets a VR machine and he's like stuck inside it, and it's very old school, like Lawnmower Man style graphics in there, and he starts to think he's a god and he refuses to take the helmet off. Like, I think it's funny that there's an entire like half-hour episode of an American sitcom based on the Lawnmower Man. But that's kind of all we really get. This did not prove to be super prescient about the way that we use this technology or about the way it impacts our lives or is used for mind control. They kind of missed the boat on this one a little bit. This isn't like Minority Report where like they got a lot of things like right.
Well, and it shows like the beginning of the movie is just so like depressing because you have this grown man pretending to be I don't know,
mentally disabled
or intellectually disabled, and like and it's just like and then they later on they sexualize him. As granted,
it is a hard jump when they do that. Because he is the first third of the movie. He's in these kind of like I patterned my outfit today off of his look because I'm wearing a yellow shirt and some blue bottoms. He looks kind of like Harry from Dumb and Dumber, and he's just like cartoonishly dim-witted. He's like bungling around, but he's also he's a pathetic figure. He lives in a church and he gets abused by the priest. His only friend is like the guy who works with him in the lawn mowing crew, but he's kind of a drunk. And, generally just people pick on him and are not very nice to him. And he's got like a friend who's like a little kid, but the little kid's being abused also. And everybody's just kind of like nasty and mean-spirited in this movie right from the jump. Well, I guess I should clarify. Right from the jump, the very first thing we see is a monkey engaging in a first-person shooter while being suspended from a gyroscope, and I'm still bored. I'm watching this image. There's a monkey wearing this cyber suit being flipped around, and he's shooting guys in a video game, and I'm bored out of my mind.
I was honestly like, I was watching that, and I was going, hell yeah, we're gonna see some fucking monkey, sci-fi stuff.
Yeah.
And then they kill the monkey.
It was all I could do not to just turn it off and watch Planet of the Apes, one of the good ones.
haven't seen Planet of the Apes, but I was thinking that
We'll
it was
get to
probably a
some
better
of them.
Old ones or the new ones?
Neither.
Oh, we'll get to some of them. Yeah,
I've never been
I love that whole
Planet
series.
of the Apes.
Yeah.
I have the only one I haven't seen is the newest one. Actually, I haven't seen Kingdom, but yeah, I gotta get.
I
to
just
that one
know
soon.
is it Apes Together Strong?
Yes,
Is that
they sure
yeah.
are. They are. That's a good lesson to live by. Yeah, this is a very strange beast of a movie because you are
So
stitching
I
together
will
all
say
these
a couple of
elements.
things.
Yeah, please.
Regardless of the creepy factor, there's this moment in the movie where this girl is looking in her rearview mirror and sees his ass.
Yeah.
And I just think very rarely have I seen female perspectives like that, and I'm just like,
Man,
I
and
thought it was so fucking funny.
it is just a little bit of a jarring moment. So, Job is this simple guy who works on lawns. Pierce Brosnan's test monkey just died. He's this brilliant scientist developing this VR technology.
And specifically, he's developing like VR technology to like increase intelligence.
Yes.
And he's not trying to make weapon, but his company wants him to make a weapon.
Yeah, and so he uses this poor guy as like a test subject, and almost
Which-
immediately he starts getting stronger, smarter, and hotter.
Ethically-
And
Immediate
Ethical problems.
oh, immediately! Look, and they establish that Brosnan's character is like shady and obsessed, and he's kind of a Frankenstein like egomaniac character,
Yeah, okay.
But Jeff Fahey's character just gets better posture all of a sudden and starts dressing like 2/3 of the guys in
Combs
Austin.
his hair.
Yeah, combs his hair. Yeah.
That's wearing flannels and jeans.
And button snap or pearl snap shirts, and like the local kind of like hot wealthy widow starts taking a shine to him in a subplot that is
kind of weird.
really weird and kind
They
of
definitely
thrown
just
away.
start banging.
They really do that character dirty.
They start banging, and so somehow this very inexperienced man is the best sex she's ever had.
because of
'cause
science.
He, similar to how it works in the Matrix, he learned cyber sex from the VR video game.
Yeah, exactly. You just have to read about it on Wikipedia. That's how I learned.
And he says this. So no. Let me finish. He
Yes.
says this creepy line where it's like, "You've got a lot of wild fantasies." Then he takes her into a VR headset world where he turns into a monster, like a black gaping hole monster, and I'm just like, I'm pretty sure that's not the fantasy she's been having.
This was after the programming for the testing he was doing was altered by the other science leader guy to make it more what the military wanted. So that I was like, maybe this is them saying that, oh no, it's going wrong now, but really wasn't clear.
Was not clear. And then she sort of just is permanently altered.
Yeah.
Just kind of like brain wipes her, kind of.
Like a little bit. She goes crazy. They have very weird VR sex that just kind of like breaks her brain because she hadn't imagined turning into a polygonal shape and then merging, I guess,
I
from
just had to-
12 feet away.
I had to Google because I forgot the name of
They
this.
turn into a dragonfly together because that is the fantasy we all have.
That's exactly what exactly that what we all want.
Do you remember Encarta?
Yes, exactly. It looks
That's what they're subjecting him to, is just articles in Encarta.
3D dinosaur adventure. Yeah, that'll
I was
trigger
like,
some
oh my
things in my-
god, I remember this being a thing, but I don't remember what it
I
was
remember
called.
a throwaway line where Pierce Brosnan was like, he's learned Latin in 2 hours. It took me a year to learn the Latin alphabet. The Latin
That's what
alphabet
we
is
use.
That's
Yeah,
what we
yeah.
use.
It's like, man, come on, you already go.
Well, he's real dumb. That's the problem. Like,
I think
they
the
make him-
writers are real dumb.
I mean, it's so yeah. We get that like problematically like sexy element of it, but pretty much almost immediately, Job starts becoming megalomaniacal and starts developing
Starts
powers.
going Ultron.
Yeah, like he's not just like stronger and smarter and more assertive. He's developing abilities. and-
He begins.
He becomes Professor X.
Yeah,
With
yeah.
what's Firestarter called?
Telephresis? No, it's what is that called?
telepyrosis.
Pyrokinesis. Pyrokinesis.
Yes.
Yeah, there we go. We all read Firestarter.
we did.
I have no idea what
It's been
Firestarter
a
is.
really long. It's another Stephen King property.
Yeah.
This time with Drew Barrymore as a tiny child.
She's great. She lights people on fire with her mind. It's a fun movie. Good book.
Yeah, he gets the ability to read minds, and then that graduates into telekinesis. He also develops ADHD.
Sure.
Because at one point there's a scene of him he teaches himself how to drive, and he takes the kid to the diner or whatever, and the kid's he's showing the kid all this cool music, but he's just listening to 5 seconds of it and then switching the CD, and he's like, I just have to listen to samples and then it's all in my brain.
And he's just absorbing everything.
And I'm
he's
dear God.
like Lilu in The Fifth Element, just reading the entire encyclopedia to learn everything.
I think something that is shockingly I want to debase anyone who watches Lawnmower Man. The smarter you get does not mean that you give away your comic book supplies. That is bullshit.
Come on, the
smarter you get, the more comic books.
You took offense to that? That's so funny.
That's what I found offensive.
You just start appreciating them on a deeper level. Yeah.
What he claims is what's happening is that because at one point he seems to become smarter than everyone in the world. He claims that humanity has over time stopped using parts of the brain that allowed them access to these abilities. So humanity's always had them. They've just been dormant this whole time.
So he's Lucy.
And he's awakened, or was it limitless?
Yeah, or he's limitlessing or he's Lucying, depending on which way you want to go. Yeah.
And so he's uncovered the parts of the brain that allowed humanity to have magic powers, the alchemists and wizards of old.
Which hopefully it doesn't need to be actually said, but the whole humans use 10% of their brain thing is total bullshit. It's just made up. It means nothing. It's like an inspirational expression.
It's also we've learned over time that the brain is kind of specialized in places, and that's not how brain works.
You don't use the entire organ for thought.
If you're using the whole brain at once, you're going through it.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, exactly. You're doing one hell of a Macarena, but it's based on this really kind of goofy science that has just been long held as being true. It's just completely untrue.
So I want to say that this movie is weird, but this movie is also bad.
That's the thing. I wish it were more fun.
Yeah,
it's not fun.
It's not fun. Pierce Brosnan's character, I've seen Pierce Brosnan be a goofball in movies, and he's a spectacular goofball.
Sure.
But in this movie, he's playing it so straight and boring. He's a dull character in this. He's just blah 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 blah.
But he's an asshole. You know. He's also he's dull and he's unpleasant. But really, the main event for most moviegoers and really for anybody watching it are these CGI effects. And the enjoyment that I get from the movie, the little bits of enjoyment I do get are from watching these CGI segments. They're obviously extremely dated. And I think even for 1992, they weren't that great looking. But when they're kind of clicking, there's a good kind of trippy element to it, and there's some creativity going on that I find interesting, if not totally captivating. But I think this movie is going for, we just covered Minority Report. Yeah. We just talked about Philip K. Dick and how he could do these sort of big philosophical ideas in a sci-fi world. I think this movie thinks it has this really deep idea, and it's just kind of gobbledygook.
It tries to hit that blend of taking itself the right amount of seriously, and it misses.
Yeah.
It feels at times like it's taking itself too seriously, and at times like it's not taking itself seriously enough. And none of those times lead to an enjoyable experience.
No, and I think I just, like you said, we got to the end of the movie and we were not totally sure what Job's motivations were. He wants to escape into the virtual world. He wants to leave his physical body behind and be able to just live in this virtual realm that he's in total control of. But I mean, can't they just unplug the server? I don't know.
Yes.
It feels like this is a
that
pretty
is how
easy
that works.
solution. You just did we trap him in cyberspace? Okay, unplug the Ethernet
especially
cable. We're done.
In 1992.
Yeah. There was the computers were taking up an entire room, to pull off this kind of technology. and it just feels like an easily solvable solution. They do blow up the lab.
They blow it up. Yeah, it was just a wild endeavor. I don't know what else to say.
So, Job goes on a killing spree. He kills the people who were obviously going to get killed from the beginning. The priest,
Mean bully,
the priest who confesses to molestation. So, like, does that mean Job was molested?
It's implied.
It's
yeah.
definitely implied.
One
And-
more pleasant thing for this movie to
one
introduce.
more. And then he kills. He does kill the gas station attendant, doesn't he?
He does, yeah.
And then it's just like, and then he puts mom and boy to sleep, and then lawnmowers the abusive dad to death.
Which is the one little nod that we're getting to the story, as I referenced. Like that's the character, the same character name, and he gets lawnmowered.
Like some reason, this research facility has, I don't know, 15, 20 armed guards.
Well, it's supposed to be like a government research facility, and I'm like,
Government
that
research-
seems like either too little or too many, and I'm not sure
Government
which.
facilities do not have armed guards usually. Like they don't. Like
Yeah, no, I think. Well, so
Yeah.
okay, they keep calling it the shop, which is like the laboratory, but it's supposed
Really?
to.
No, the shop. I thought the shop is a nickname for the CIA.
Oh, is it? Okay, I misunderstood. But that like the VSI or whatever. The
No,
company.
I think that's what they were calling the lab was the shop.
Oh, okay.
No, it was VIS. That was the lab. The shop is the CIA.
Okay. Yeah. Either way, they this is an incredibly.
Write in and tell us. What,
Yes, please.
what they're wrong.
Yeah.
Watch this fucking movie.
Right.
Write in and tell us which person is right.
Screenwriters of the movie, let us know. But yeah, either way, like Dean Norris is like supervising this, and I think he's implied to be
So-
more of like a evil billionaire than he is like a shady government agent.
Dean Norris, y'all may remember as Hank from Breaking Bad, is playing a man with an English accent.
Well, it's not even an English accent. He's doing like a kind of a fey sort of affected like drawl, kind of like a. I think we need to up the laboratory.
I just assume somewhere in
budget."
England people spoke like that.
No, he's
I-
playing just kind of
Yeah,
like a
it's so
moneyed
weird.
comic book villain.
He's a CIA agent.
Is he CIA?
Yeah,
Okay, no, I thought he was like the
wanna
head of the lab.
They want to militarize all the science that the guy is doing.
I think you're wrong. I think he's the head because they keep reporting to him. I think the CIA comes into it, but I don't think he's CIA.
Yeah, if he's not government whatever, then he is like their liaison, because it definitely seemed like he was
He was the one
part
pushing
of
for
the
the
government.
militarization of the research.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because that's where the money is. In any sci-fi movie of the 80s or 90s, they're obviously going to turn the evil thing into a bioweapon. Like they learned all their lessons from Aliens. They got the right idea. That's just like the one of my favorite sort of like narrative shortcuts. It's like, why do they want this killer monster from Mars?
VSI, which is the lab,
Okay.
is funded by the Shop, a clandestine organization seeking military applications for research. So yeah, the
Oh.
CIA.
So, well, no, but because the shop is like, it seems like they're a more of an Illuminati kind of thing.
No,
It seems like a secret society.
there's a nickname for the CIA that's very similar to the Shop.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't think
Yeah.
it's the shop. I think it, yeah.
Yeah, well, obviously it's not identical.
Well, not identical, no, but it's like the store or the company might be it. Yeah. Either way, it's a testament to this movie
all of a
that
sudden we found something to argue about in this movie.
we couldn't really parse it, and I think it's because the movie's kind of poorly edited and poorly staged. Also, I just need to call out Google Free Play because that's how I watched this movie, and it was one of the more unpleasant movie watching experiences I've had in a while. First of all, no subtitles, which is ableist and bullshit. Secondly, I had to watch the same goddamn advertisement for a conservative railroad commissioner in Texas 18 times throughout the watching of this very long movie.
You should have done Tubi.
I should have
I
tubied
tubied
it.
it.
I
Mostly
really,
HEB ads.
I should have tubied it. Yeah, I could deal with
my
the
ad block
HEB
blocks
ads.
the ads. So
Fuck you, Bo
had
French.
an ad-free experience.
Yeah.
How do you have an ad blocker on your like PS4 or something?
I
like that?
watched it on my computer.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
Tubi has a website,
Well, yeah. I guess
and I
Yeah.
also have a network level ad block, which works in some cases.
Oh, fair.
How do you get a network level ad block?
Do you want me to explain it now
Not
on the
on air.
podcast?
Not on air, no.
It would probably be the most. It would probably be the most listened to episode.
Just you guys talk about that. I'm going to go into cyberspace for a while. Excuse me.
Oh, I did. So a couple of things that I did want to talk about before we get to the game,
Yeah.
including one question for the game.
Okay.
I do feel like so I was talking about this a little bit. This movie definitely shows the preoccupation the early 90s had with cyber sex.
Yes.
And like this idea like that comes through to Demolition Man that the future of sex is in virtual reality. And I just like it's so quaint and weird, and it's such an interesting little relic of the past.
Yeah.
Because that's not where time showed us.
That's a funny like back-to-back sort of vision of the future, because both Demolition Man and this movie are positing that like the future of sex is going to be no physical contact. It's all virtual. It's all being assisted by like computers. And that was kind of a fear that a lot of conservative types were mongering around the time, because they were calling for more safe sex practices back then. They were calling for AIDS prevention and STD prevention, and just basically the end to this kind of like free love era of like the 60s and 70s, So a lot of conservative types in their, especially sci-fi writers, were satirizing this idea and pushing back against it. That's not what happened. No, that's not what happened. But yeah, it is kind of a funny idea. Either way, I think the games are going to be a little bit more interesting to talk about at this juncture.
The games are really fun.
At least one of them.
At least one of them is really surprisingly fun. And that one is called The Lawnmower Man. It was released November in 1993, so quite a bit after the movie. And it was developed by Sales Curve Interactive and published by THQ. This one was released on Super Nintendo, Genesis, and the Sega CD. Also Game Boy. So the cartridge versions of this game are all kind of the same. They are side-scrolling platformer / shooters with a heavy element of Contra, and occasionally like the interstitials between levels require you to do like a faux first-person segment throughout cyberspace where you're just like controlling a pair of hands and you're flying through a maze, essentially.
Kind of like a ghost.
And
But in what world is that like a ghost?
In my head, I just assume ghosts fly around with their arms out.
going like, ooh.
That is entirely a you thing. Like that is not
Okay.
what ghosts do.
Well, guess what? You don't get to be haunted by him. You don't get to see him Supermaning through walls. Too bad. I really enjoyed this game. Like,
I think most of that comes from Scooby-Doo ghosts.
oh yeah, that's very true. Yeah, the template. No, this is very simple in execution, but I don't know. I found it to be surprisingly varied and entertaining and
So
pretty
fun.
fast-paced.
We get to play co-op.
There's co-op. There's on-screen
co-op.
co-op. Now, obviously, the two characters that you're going to play in this game are Pierce Brosnan, sure, and of course the neighbor kid's mom, who has 2 lines of dialogue in the movie. Obviously, she's your second chair.
Now she's single.
Now she's single and has multiple machine guns and is mowing her way through many rabid monkeys in the street. There's a very heavy Contra influence here, which is not a bad thing to rip off, in my opinion, because that means it's going to be fast-paced and lots of bullets flying.
I wasn't super excited about the flying segments. They weren't bad.
No, they weren't. They're
and
brief.
then the
They're
other
brief.
segments were pretty reasonably decent.
These are pretty impressive, like, pseudo 3D graphics. This is what for the old heads like me, this is what Super Nintendo used to call Mode 7 graphics. That's what they were really advertising with like Star Fox and games like that. It's like, we can do 3D asterisk asterisk asterisk, like we can do that on your Super Nintendo. And it's really just very basic polygons and like the illusion of moving through
the illusion of
first dimension.
parallax.
Yeah, but I think it's pulled off pretty well here. The frame rate stays high. Like, these segments are very short and very simple, but they look as good as anything in the movie, honestly. Like,
Yeah, and then the segments outside of it were all like, we've played plenty of games that try to do this, and it's like clunky, it's weird, it's hard to navigate, you're not sure where you're going.
yeah.
We didn't really have that problem with this. We were
No.
able to just keep trucking along.
And they never
It was-
overstay their welcome. Like this is also not as punishingly difficult as some of the games we
Yeah.
played. Like we kept.
I
going
got
pretty
my
far.
ass kicked by a mid-sized sedan.
Yeah, this game's the vehicles in this game are really your number one threat. We have to fight a sedan, a motorcycle, a van. And so, like, I think I could be forgiven
Gas
for
station,
shooting the gas
A
station
whole ass
bomb.
gas station.
I think I could be forgiven for shooting the hell out of a helicopter because I didn't expect that you were
Honestly,
supposed to hop into it just to go over
I
30
assumed
feet.
that too. I assumed you were supposed to kill it.
Yeah. I mean, it was blinking when you shot it. So, but Jabin, you were even saying that, like, you know, if we had a little bit more time and a little more energy in the tank, we probably could have beaten this.
Yeah,
one.
no, I think we could have.
It's not
Especially,
long.
they're pretty generous with the lives, but the hard part is that, like, I'm always I hate these sort of like virtual reality 3D flying games because I'm just like, they fuck with my head.
Yeah.
Like I just really don't like them.
You're good at like a top-down shooter.
Yeah, a top-down shooter.
Yeah.
And
Which
and
there
I'm-
are levels of that in this
Yeah.
later. There's like we looked ahead and they're like there's like a motorcycle
there's
chase.
a motorcycle
sequence.
chase.
Yeah, where you like are just firing machine guns from all sides of your motorcycle.
But I liked the regular level of the games where it was just to shoot 'em up, and it was really fun. Like the gun mechanism was like sort of like the exploding orbs thing,
Yeah.
and so it was really it's like shooting was fun.
It was. Yeah.
It's like the enemies were varied and like the levels weren't too long, so like we were going along at a cracking pace.
Yeah. We beat like the first 4 levels or something like that, just kind of like blazing right through. And I think there's not many more levels after that. Yeah, I was having a surprisingly good time with this game. I'd never played it. I'd never really encountered it before this, and it was fairly obscure.
Very rare for this time is they had very good balance of story, like the annoying story parts to game.
Yes.
Unlike the other video games.
So there's
Yes.
a Sega CD version of this game that's an entirely different beast than these platformers. It's still made by the same team. But of course, if you are old enough to remember the Sega CD, then you'll remember the FMV phenomenon, the brief era where we had to put full motion video into all of our games. And it basically turned every single video game into Dragon's Lair, or I guess the modern equivalent would be navigating a DVD menu. You know, your only important buttons are your directional buttons, and you just need to press them at the right time for your poorly timed character to interact with the screen. Most of what we're seeing in this game is, I think it's just Pierce Brosnan like dicking around in cyberspace. You'll have to do like very rudimentary puzzles that involves pressing one of the cardinal directions. And then if you do it right, you're rewarded with an extremely grainy, monotone clip of the movie, including the horny bits, which I think surprised all of us.
Yeah.
We were seeing Job getting seduced by like the neighbor lady, and like I'm like, oh, okay. Is there going to be a mini game for that? Or I've enjoyed games like this in the past. I have kind of a soft spot for things that are doing the thing that this game is trying to do. This one looks boring as hell. It is a bunch of incomprehensible graphics that you can barely make sense of, and a lot of very rudimentary button prompts, and that's kind of the whole game. Any dissenting opinion on that?
No, it's trash. Trash.
It looks pretty bad. Apparently, it was good enough, though, to get a sequel, which is one of the things that makes this game anomalous.
And not only that, it ended on a cliffhanger.
Ends on a cliffhanger, yeah. So not only did they made a sequel, and they knew they were going to have one. The sequel is just called Cyber War. They dropped the Lawnmower Man branding entirely. And it is not based on the second movie. It is based on this video game. It is a follow-up to this video game, and it continues the original story. So Pierce Brosnan's image is still being used in the second game, but he does not appear in the second movie. This game came out on PC, and it came out on PS1 over in Japan. It was supposed to come out over here, but it didn't sell very well. Kind of an obscurity now. I wasn't able to find a playable copy, but we saw some video of it, and it looks just like the Sega CD version in that it looks bad and boring. And it's a lot of random button presses and kind of an indistinct story, and this time we don't even have clips from the movie to go back to. So, a product of a bygone era. Rather like the Lawnmower Man movie itself. which I think is as good a time as any to segue into our final thoughts. Is The Lawnmower Man a good movie, good game, bad movie, bad game, or some mixture in between? Justin, why don't you kick us off? You're the tech guy here.
Bad movie, good game.
There you go. Clean and simple. Clean and simple. J-Ban, how about you?
Terrible movie. Really good game, and then the second game is terrible trash. Absolute trash. But the good game, it's really fun. If you can play it, you should play it.
I'm on the same page. I wish this movie was campier. I wish it was funnier. I wish it was less kind of grimy. I don't know. It's just sort of an unpleasant watch on top of being sort of a boring movie. You know, it's got a couple of things to recommend for it, but I think nothing you can't really see in a YouTube compilation. And then, I was pleasantly surprised by the Super Nintendo game and unpleasantly surprised by the Sega CD game and its sequel. So that's a bad movie, good game, plus bad game. That's the mixture on this one. And that concludes yet another episode of Cinema Arcade. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Next week, we are going to do something a little special. If you don't mind, y'all, I'm just going to take you in a little bit on some things going on in my world right now. By the time you're hearing next week's episode, me and longtime friend of the show, fourth chair, partner to the show, Ailish Collins, are going to be getting married. So this next week, I decided to commemorate, to break the rules of our show a little bit so that we can give my bride-to-be something that she would be very excited to come on and talk about. We're going to be talking about her favorite thing in the world, which is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We're doing a Buffy episode next week, so we can watch the movie, we can watch the show, watch whatever you want. The games that we're playing are based very specifically on the show. But it's our podcast, and we can break the rules all we want. And I think this merits a special occasion. We gotta let my soon-to-be wife talk about her favorite thing in the world. So tune in next week for that one. We're gonna be talking about Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Ailish will be here, and we will see you all next time. And bye everybody.
Bye.
Unplugging the server now.
Let's get cybered. I don't know. There wasn't even a good catchphrase out of that movie.
Yeah, there wasn't. No. Oh well, maybe next time. Lawnmower Man 3.
Mow your lawn.
Let's get cyber.
Yeah, it's raining. Mow your lawn.
There you go. That's the one.